All right, so this is a surveillance video from inside the bar. See if we get a couple people are there going up and down the stairs. Here you come, and that's your fall right then and there, right? That's you?
Yep. Yes, it is.
Hello, everybody. Today is another Heroes Next Door. Welcome back. Welcome to Heroes Next Door. This is around the fire table discussion tonight. It's Friday night at 7 o'clock. It's been a long week for me. Had a lot of busy work. I had a lot of classes. Ended up taking a difficult airway class. Today I just finished up ACLS and PALS and my CPR recertification. Lots of different things going on. So Eminem, thank you for joining us. So tonight is going to be a pretty interesting topic. It is March, which kicks off Brain Injury Awareness Month, and we are going to have a guest speaker, former patient of mine and a friend. He was a former firefighter at Fame Fire Company, one of the station cribs I did way back early, and it's going to be pretty cool. I'm going to wait for him to kind of log in, but while we are waiting for him, I want to give you a little bit of background here. Let me turn off my music here. I do have some video, surveillance video that I'm going to show you in regards to his fall. He was able to acquire this video surveillance for his mission. He is currently running or working with an organization called Restart Your Life or Renewal of Your Mind. It's a nonprofit organization that does a lot of things.
Let me go, I don't want to go. Relax, it's gonna be okay. We're gonna take you to the hospital. Let me see if I can get you a blanket. Hey, where you going? Let me go, I don't want to go. Relax, it's gonna be okay. We're gonna take you to the hospital. Are you okay back there? Do you need any help? No, it's okay, I got the XD cuffs.
XD Cuffs, soft restraints reinvented, developed by EMS for EMS. The best soft restraints for pre-hospital service.
All right, there he is. Let me see if I can pair him in. Cool. Let's show. So, Kev, how about you just tell the audience kind of, what you've done and, or, what happened. I can show the video of you in just a little bit. I have that kind of loaded up and kind of show you the treatments and stuff like that, what I did and how long it took. But let's just do an introduction with you, my friend.
Sure. So my name is Kevin McDonald. I'm a traumatic brain injury survivor from 2009. By trade, my full-time gig is I'm a architectural designer. I currently work for a steel detailing company. And then when I had my accident and I got back into life, I found out that there was not a whole lot out there for brain injury survivors, and I was a quote unquote higher level functioning. So, I was being told I was doing too well to get assistance, that kind of thing. So I decided to start my own nonprofit and stay involved, and that's turned into a major part-time job, so to speak.
Okay.
So, but the first thing I really want to say is I've been trying. I'm 14 years post-accident now, and I've been trying to meet people who worked on me that night. And when you reached out to me and said that you were the one that innovated me, right away I was like, wow, I finally met somebody, So, all I can do is thank you. I'm indebted to you and everybody that worked on me that night. It's been a big, it's a long road. It's a windy road, but it's turned into a good road for me. I was going down a bad road. My background is, I had turned into a binge drinker. I worked in bars a lot, was around kids a lot. And I'm a big football guy, so it was fun to hang out with the college football guys that I bounced with in the nightclub in Westchester. And
right. Right.
So that turned into along with my other working in bars, I basically worked in bars all weekend. And when I wasn't working, a lot of times I would go hang out, and it ended up being the thing I needed to change my life. I mean, this
Okay.
became a very extreme thing to turn me around, but it turned me around. Who knows where I could have been?
So what I hear you saying is, at the time you fell, that's when you were kind of going through that dark place.
Yes.
You were already in that kind of mode of drinking and hanging out a lot and doing that kind of stuff. And this actually changed your life for the better, even though it was an accident that was, life threatening. Is that what I understand you saying?
Yeah. It did. It's God did wonders in me after I fell that night, because medically speaking, I probably shouldn't have made it through that night between the blood alcohol level and just what happened. I mean, I probably fell about 15 feet. I would guess you saw it. You might have a good idea. So it was good.
I'm gonna pull it up here real quick, and we're gonna play it just a little bit, and just kind of show you the fall that was going on, and then I'll kind of fast forward it to when I walk in and kind of the treatment, so our viewers can kind of get an appreciation of what happened. All right, Kev?
Sure.
All right. So this is a surveillance video from inside the bar. See if we get a couple people are there going up and down the stairs. Here you come, and that's your fall right then and there, right? That's you?
Yep. Yes, it is.
So looking at that fall, I'm going to back it up just a little bit ago. It didn't look like a major fall. The one thing I didn't realize when I first treated you is that it was more of a stumble fall. You didn't fall from really the landing. You caught the railing right there and then came down and landed on your head. So looking at it from, a certain perspective, I've seen falls that were much worse than what that was and didn't have as much injuries. One of the things that we talk about in EMS is, doing a thorough assessment and understanding that alcohol is also a blood thinner. So I'm wondering if, even just that fall, the fact that you were intoxicated that night played a factor on how easily you bled. Because you're not a small dude. You're a football player back then. You're playing, and taking a hit like that to the head didn't seem any worse than getting tackled, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's very possible. I've had people suggest that maybe the fact I was drinking, that I was thin enough that I didn't clot and I didn't really form blockages up in my blood vessels in my brain or anywhere else at the time. Who knows? Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I was told from investigations and stuff, I had been to a wedding that day, so I was wearing the suit and I was carrying the suit jacket down. I was told that I had lost my balance on the other flight of stairs, and when I got to this flight, I was falling forward, and it looks like I pulled myself into the railing, and I got hit in two spots. So I broke some bones in my nose, and which tells me that I hit that post at the bottom when I was kind of riding the rail down with my face, my head.
Yeah.
But when I spun around, I landed on my brainstem, and it's an old historic building, so really thick floors. They don't move. But I landed on my brainstem on the back of my neck, and the other part of the result is that when I hit that bottom and I spun around, I actually sheared 4 to 5 blood vessels in my brain. So I don't like to say never about any part of this. Medically speaking and biologically speaking, that is the only thing that will never heal. But the brain's a wonderful thing. It makes other connections around those interruptions, and really, one of the things that I guess one of the definitions I saw about for brain injury is that it's an interruption of brain waves. I think is or brain vessels. I forget how it's worded, but so they actually sheared. I had a couple of brain bleeds that were found when I was at the hospital. And I consider myself lucky. I really do. It's all closed. They're all closed wounds, no open wounds, no surgeries. I did find later, once I got back into life, probably about a year later, I was having some shoulder problems, and I did find that I also fractured my clavicle when I fell, and it healed back overlapped. So if that's that's the worst that happens to me, then I'm okay with that part. So I never got it. I never had it rebroken and fixed or anything like that.
Okay, but now you actually did. I saw that you did some powerlifting during your rehab. You did some other things during your rehab. So physically you were able to kind of get back. It's just a matter of that mental challenge of that traumatic brain injury that you kind of struggled with over the years for that rehab. So what we're seeing now in the video is basically bystanders trying to figure out what happened. No one really saw you go down, it looked like. So once they kind of saw you at the bottom, they start calling 911. And for those who are watching that may not be an EMS, it's funny because, we pick up the phone and we think, oh, the 911 is going to show up. But that's got to go to a 911 call center. Then it goes to a dispatch. And then the dispatch goes to our pagers. And then we got to get up from wherever we're at, our firehouse, I was at the hospital at the time. So I, go to the hospital, I get to my truck, and then I got to make my way to you, right? So that can go through, traffic lights, the amount of traffic. Now, 2:30 in the morning, there wasn't much traffic. I made it here fairly quickly from the time you fell to the time I arrived on scene. So these guys are coming here. They're trying to assess you. They don't know exactly what's going on. These are just standard bystanders. Are any of these your friends? Do you remember?
They actually were workmates
Okay.
from the facility.
Okay. So they called 911, and by the time I think I marked it here at 12:04. So 12 minutes after this surveillance saw you fall. Let me back it up here. 12:04. I come in. So the police officer arrived first. Here's our police officer in the corner there. See if you can see you can see that. So this is the police officer. And then here, that's me right there. So I come in, I do an assessment, and at this moment in time, I don't know if you fell from the top, fell from the bottom. I'm doing that typical assessment. Hey, are you okay? Are you breathing? Do you have a pulse? All those kind of things that are going on. I noticed pretty quickly that you're pretty critical. I had to get you kind of off the bottom of the stairs here so I can work on you. So we just kind of slide you out because your feet are still up on the steps, right? So there's no real way for me to get you on a backboard while you're still on the step. And I needed to kind of start treating you because if I remember right, this has been a while, but you were in that kind of snoring, slow respirations, that Kussmaul breathing that happens during a head injury. And that's why we intubated you. That's my partner that just walked in there. I don't know if you've ever met her. She's Carrie. Her name's Carrie. She works for Good Fellowship now. Great medic, great partner. Loved working with her. She comes in right away and starts, working as a team. Below us here are the other EMS providers. So looking at the timestamp, we're at 13 minutes from the time you fell to the time you start getting treatments and assessment. That's pretty quick.
That's very good.
So for those that are, watching, do you get there before I did get there before GFAC. Most of the time in Chester County and Westchester, the medics did get there before Good Fellowship. And GFAC is considered Good Fellowship. Chuck mentioned that. Medic 91 was a chase car vehicle. We weren't in MICU service at the time. So we got out much quicker. I ran as a single provider. The partner that showed up, Carrie, she shows up in another vehicle. And this is what at the Blarney Stone in Westchester, I think, or whatever one right on High Street. I don't even remember the name of it. But you were on High Street. So from the hospital to there, I think it's like 8 blocks, give or take, right, Kev?
It's a little more than that, actually. It's probably more like 13 or 14 once you go to the edge of town, then go out of town, so to speak. So,
right.
Depending on how you go, I guess you go Marshall to High, and it's probably 10 blocks.
Okay. So what we're seeing here in the video is me doing that full trauma assessment. Even though you fell, we know you have a head injury. I have a girl, we're kind of in the way here in the video, but underneath us, we have a girl maintaining your airway, putting a C-collar on you, and I'm making you a trauma patient, right? Trauma patient, not trauma patient until they're naked in the patient. So
right.
Even though you were in a public facility, I got to make sure that you don't have any other wounds you can see me feeling your legs, make sure there's no, broken bones or femur, fractures or anything like that. That is also going to be an issue. Make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah, you
So-
ruined a good suit.
What's that?
You ruined a good suit.
Sorry, brother. We get that a lot. The only thing you don't want to cut, though, is those down jackets. Everybody's been on the winter calls, and you go to cut a jacket off, and those feathers go everywhere. We tend to take those off instead of cut them. So after this, I'm going to kind of hide us a little bit, Kev, so we can kind of see a little bit. We get stuck in the corner. I stepped away. You notice that I'm not in the film here. I stepped away. I called medical command, and I called for the helicopter. Because in Chester County at this moment in time, we don't have a trauma center that was close to Westchester. We either took you down to Crozier Medical Center by ground, or we flew you down to the city. And I knew that Jefferson or Hupp had the right abilities to take care of this kind of injury. So that's kind of why you don't see me in the picture at first. Carrie's putting an IV in. Our BLS providers, our basic life support, they're holding C-spine. And I'm also, you can kind of see the top of my head down here. I'm also getting ready for the intubation. You were definitely having trouble maintaining your own airway, being that unresponsive patient. So we had to square that away. And again, I'm going to pull up the timestamp here. We are at 17 minutes after the initial fall. We have the EKG on. We have a trauma assessment completed. If I believe right, I got the scope in my hand right there, getting ready to intubate you. And we knew right away that you didn't have any external bleeding that we need to worry about, but you had some major injuries. So, one of the things that I kind of preach is make sure that you get that assessment done. Make sure that you get a plan of action. Let me pause that. I think we're good there. We'll back him out, bring us back up. There we are. Yeah. There we are. All right. So,
Good job.
I'm learning the technology part. So, at 17 minutes, I intubated you and got you prepared to go to the helicopter. Put you on a backboard, had the C-collar on, and sent you down to the city. The thing that we have struggled with, or that I struggle with sometimes, is having that follow through once we hand off a patient to either another service or a helicopter. We lose track of you. So the fact that you were able to, post this and we came across each other years later, is pretty amazing to me to talk to a patient that essentially, in my eyes, was critical and didn't know if we were going to make it.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing on my side that I was able to get the surveillance. I was able to get the stuff to look back on it, because watching it kind of gave me some closure about what's going on. And I really, I wasn't really back into life for 4 or 5 years after my accident. I was living on my own after a year, but I wasn't anything near what I used to be. And but I tried tracking down everyone that worked with me that night, because I remember from my years of the fire service, that very thing that you just said. We cut somebody out of a car and we give them off to you in the ambulance, and we don't see or hear from them again. So it would, and it's always nice to hear that, because I'm also a member of the Chester County CISM team, Critical Incident Stress Management.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you hear a lot is the actual firefighters, ambulance people, etc. That helps them if they get that closure, if that reinforce that they did a good job, they did their job. I always, whenever I'm speaking to other brain injury survivors, I always preach go back to the facility and say hi to those that worked with you, because that will help them so much in their career, their life in general, how they feel, their worth, their own self-worth is, right. It can take a hit, because in a place like Bryn Mawr Rehab, where I was sent, that's an acute care facility. So, so you go to, I was, flown to Hupp, and now I went there as a John Doe. So no one really knew anything about me. My brother who was actually a fire chief at the time, he was called by, you guys transported me to the Goodwill Fire Company, and that's where the helicopter picked me up.
Right. So in Westchester, it's a little city. It's a college town. To kind of give our viewers a description, it's a college town with multiple restaurants and small streets, one-way streets. For us as the EMS, we have pre-designated LZs to land helicopters to send off. So the closest one to where this location was at Hyde Market area, we had to go to Goodwill Fire Company. And they have a pre-designated landing zone for helicopters to come in. So this is a coordinated event between multiple resources, not just between 911 dispatching, medics, and EMTs that you saw in the video, but now we're getting helicopters involved, we're getting fire police involved, we're getting the police department involved, and we're getting the actual fire department in order to make the landing zones.
Yeah, so because of the helicopter landing there, some members of the Goodwill Fire Company, of course, they were called for a helicopter standby, and one of their crew members recognized me, and to getting out of the ambulance. Well, they called my brother, and they didn't know where I was being sent to. So here it is at 3:00 in the morning or whatever at this point, and and my brother is trying to find me, and so he calls, from his intelligence from the fire service, he figures it's probably Jefferson or Hupp. Once he realized that was a Penn Star, the helicopter, then he got to Hupp, no problem. But when he called there, he was told that they had just received 2 John Does from helicopter. One just died, one's about to die. And wow. Luckily I was about to die, I couldn't imagine that ride at 3:00 in the morning, not knowing if I'm going to be there, and then not knowing if I'm going to be alive. So I couldn't imagine what that was like. Thank God to the fire company members that recognized me and made that phone call. Right. And then the next day, I'm originally from West Virginia, so the next day my family had come to Westchester, come to Pennsylvania, and they all assembled. I'm told they were out at the hospital early afternoon or something like that. And they were basically told that if I lived through the week, I would have a minimal quality of life. Luckily, I'm beating those odds. And I've been, again, by the grace of God, he does good work. And, and he's done a good work on me. There's no doubt about that.
Okay. Do you remember much of that night itself?
I remember, I forget if I mentioned earlier, I had been at a wedding, so that's why I was wearing the suit. But so I remember, last thing I remember is about 4:00 that afternoon. I remember going to the hotel where the wedding was and finding out that I was an hour early. It actually started at 5. Okay. So I went to one of the bars I worked at and had my first beverage. Last thing I remember is going to that place. I do know it kind of jogged my memory from talking to people that after the wedding reception, I went to one of those bars and walked uptown with friends. But there's probably about a month of my life that I don't remember anything about. I can tell you that I get images. One of the side effects of brain injury sometimes are nightmares and dreams and visions and stuff like that. And I get visions, and I'll ask my family about it or people that know me about it, and they'll say, "Oh yeah," like one vision I had was I was dreaming one night about people in blue uniforms walking in a hallway of a building I was in. Well, as it turned out, there were police officers in that hallway. I guess they had brought in some bad guys, and but evidently I'm remembering those uniforms because I described some of the actions that night. Okay. And one of the other images I get is all the time is a vision of being inside a van like an ambulance, and and when I describe that, it sounds like that is the vehicle that transferred me from Hupp to Bryn Mawr Rehab at Malvern. So but there's about a month that I really don't remember. I think I was at Bryn Mawr for 3 or 4 weeks probably 2 or 3 weeks before I can really say I actually remember who I was working with, what was going on, that kind of stuff.
Okay. So back in 2008 when this happened, 2009. I'm gonna kind of put you on the spot for age. I'll be 49 on the 19th of this month. So, about how old were you when this all happened?
I was 39.
39 years old. Okay.
Mhm.
So, you lived enough, and you were partying hard at the time when this all happened.
Yeah.
What has changed since this? What are the things that you've been able to do in your life since this incident happened?
Oh, wow. There's so much. I'm sure I'm not going to remember it all, but
Sure.
I mean, I can't say like I've become a stronger person mentally, so to speak, and psychologically, to where I don't drink anymore. I haven't drank since the accident. It's one of those things where until I can walk right and talk right and use my hands right,
Yeah.
which you would never notice it, but I know it. I can feel it. It gives me a reason not to drink.
Okay.
I love live music. I go out to see live music all the time, but it doesn't bother me being in a facility, which is great because I'm a single guy. I live in a small apartment. I couldn't imagine being stuck in this apartment all the time just to avoid that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you sent me over some dialogue or some background information. You've done some things with the state of Pennsylvania for brain injury awareness. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, as I said, once I started getting back into life of my own, I decided to stay involved in the brain injury community. The biggest thing that got me there was I go to a brain injury and stroke support group at Bryn Mawr Rehab where I came through. And just from meeting people there and seeing their stories, seeing them in the natural, like seeing what their life looks like from the outside is so much worse than what my life looks like from the outside. Now, on the inside, it's all about perspective. I mean, your life is as good as how you make it and how you think it. But there were some people there that really, really inspired me into doing more. And, one story I can tell that really finally pushed me over the edge to make this an official nonprofit was there was a older woman. I'm guessing she was 70 to 80, if not older, but she had like 7 or 8 brain injuries over the last 30 years. And
Wow.
she also had some back problems. She had to have a 24-hour caregiver. She usually had a walker and she was kind of hunched over, and she had some back surgery. And this after I knew her 5 or 6 years at those meetings, but she had some back surgery and she was in the meeting one night and said, "Hey, I want to stand up. That's why I did this at my age. I'm going to stand up." And of course we're all like, "Oh, don't push it. Don't try too hard." We're trying to do the right things and say the right things. But even her caregiver was saying, "Don't do it. Don't do it." And she said, "I'm going to." And you know what? She stood right up, pretty as you please, not long after her surgery. And she had been missing from our meetings for, I think, about 2 months. And I had asked about her and they announced that she had passed away. And I don't know if it had anything to do with the surgery or not, so I don't want to, say anything I'm not definite of. But there was something happened. There was some kind of infection, whatever. And again, I say that wrong, but it's not. I don't know that it has anything to do with the surgery. I just know it was some kind of infection that hit her. She passed away from that, and that told me that if she can do that, if she can have the courage to just stand up one night after I've known her leaning over for 6 or 7 years, then why can't I do something? All these years of the fire service, we're helping others. You know what that's like. We're putting our lives on the line, doing whatever we can for somebody else, just to help. In our life, if we help one person, I think that's awesome. I'm sure in your situation, you've helped a lot more than that. But if I see that one smile, that one congratulations, whatever, I think that's pretty cool. So I decided to stay involved.
Okay. So you started an organization called Restart Your Life. What's that about?
So Restart Your Life, Renew Your Mind. We call it Restart for short. And the initial goal was to help one survivor a year, maybe with resources, education, or financial assistance to go to a once-in-a-lifetime event after a brain injury. So a triathlon, a seminar, whatever you might want to do that you may not, that you, according to others, may not have been able to do. So, and from there, it went to a lot of awareness and advocacy. I have so many different topics in what we do when I speak, but I'll tell my story. One of the things is first responder awareness, because I know that we as first responders have so much to deal with. We have so many decisions to make, especially today's police departments. I mean, God bless them for what they do. I mean, they have no time at all to think about repercussions of anything they're going to do. And in today's world of cell phones, when you only see a 5-second thing, half of the time it's not anything, what you see is not what they meant to do or what their intention was, But anyway, so I decided to stay involved. I've been to Washington, D.C., went 5 years consecutively before COVID hit with all the shutdowns.
What'd you do in D.C.?
So D.C. has a congressional task force on brain injury, and they partner with the Brain Injury Association of America, and they do a brain injury awareness day every year. So I started attending that with a delegation from Pennsylvania, and we basically were scheduled by our program director to go visit with lawmakers. There's debriefings, there's hearings, etc. So we've done that, and then so I was riding on the train back one time with a friend of mine, and we were talking about that event down there was so cool. Why doesn't Pennsylvania do it? Because Pennsylvania is one of the biggest states in our country that deals with brain injury. It's very active in the brain injury world. And
I mean, one of the key hospital you went to, that and Jefferson, are known on the East Coast for brain injury.
Yes, they definitely are wonderful places. So her and I had decided to get together and make something up for Harrisburg. So we, I had a good professional relationship with Senator Andrew E. Denneman at the time, and I was at an event with him, and I was talking to him. The joke is we made this happen on a street corner is the joke, but we passed each other on the way out.
Or around the fire table, tonight.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I pitched the idea to him. I said, we want to do a brain injury awareness day in Harrisburg. Now, Senator Denman was the caucus co-chair. It was a Senate caucus co-chair in Pennsylvania. So Senate Brain Injury Caucus co-chair. Okay. So talking to him, and long story short, he said, okay, can you be in my office next week to work on it? And I said, and this was like July or August, I forget, but I said, sure, but I'm thinking more like next October. He goes, no, we're doing it this October. I said, oh, okay. Okay. So we put the first one together in a couple months. We had about 100 people there. We did it a second time right before COVID hit, of course. And now the third one is scheduled on March 29th, and it's actually going to happen this time. But it's good. It starts at 10:30 in the morning. 10:30 to 11:30, we have a rally with, obviously with speakers and, our caucus co-chairs, that kind of stuff.
Is this in Harrisburg, or where is the event taking place?
It's in Harrisburg at the state capitol. The 10:30, the rally is in the main rotunda. Okay. And then after that, there's time for visiting legislators in the offices. The last time we went, we visited, I think, 30 or 40 of them. But so we'll do that. And then at 1 o'clock, there's a luncheon reception kind of thing. And then, at that, we kind of mingle with a lot of the staffs, the legislative staffs. And then 2 to 3, there's a panel discussion where we'll have a vestibular specialist from Bryn Mawr. We have a neuropsychologist that will do the monitoring, but I guess moderator is what you call them. And then we have 2 survivors and a caregiver that will speak. So that's the day in Harrisburg.
That's March 29th, 2022.
Yes. This has been scheduled since last August or September we scheduled. And then, of course, we kept getting canceled because of the mandates and stuff. But
right.
One of the things
I'm glad it's back open. I'm glad we're moving forward and doing these kind of good things. The fact that you were a fireman, you with Fame Fire Company for a long time, you did a lot of things before the accident happened. You were instrumental in the new design that they just put the live-in program, right? Mm-hmm. You helped design the fire school and some of the buildings over there. Yep. Are you back in the fire service at all, or how?
I'm not. Yeah, okay. I'm not. I'm just on the CISM team. For the county.
I would say that's inclusion in the fire service. I mean, that's something that we need. A lot of us go to these calls that are traumatic. The fact that, your brother is in the fire service and had to go through this, that alone can call for a CISM kind of reaction.
Yeah.
The fire guys that, took you out of the ambulance and put you in the helicopter and helped me with that, that can be very traumatic for any of us. We try to, put it in boxes and kind of put down our feelings because we got a job to do. But once that job is done, we really got to make sure we take care of ourselves. So, and the only way to do that is talk about it, with a CISM team, talking about it on, a round table at the fire table. That's a round table discussions. That's exactly what we need. So I want to appreciate you for the service that you've done and that you're doing for us. And you are in a brotherhood. The one thing we talk about when we travel the country is no matter where you're at, it's a brotherhood of a fire, EMS, and police. Of course, we're like, brothers, and we fight between police and fire and stuff.
Right.
But realistically, when it comes down to it, brass tacks, we're all brothers and sisters in the service, trying to do what's best. And we really appreciate you, coming on and telling your story. And hopefully someone kind of learns from this, What is one thing that you think you can say to our viewers that they could take away from this?
Oh, wow. I mean,
I know I'm putting you on the spot, brother.
yeah. I mean, again, I mentioned I'm all about perspective. It's how you want to look at it. You can look at life and you can get yourself down and dejected and stuff because everything is so bad out there and there's so much going on in the world, especially politically and ethnically and all. There's just stuff everywhere. There's little divisions everywhere, and we're in a time where we have to work together. We have to grow together again. We have to bring back respect and love in the community and stuff like that. I get how things change, evolution over time, all that kind of stuff, and I understand that. But the one thing to take out of this conversation is just really, life is never that bad. I mean, I could be looking at people that aren't doing well, and I can say, man, that's where I'm going to end up in a couple of years. Or I can do what I did on my 10th anniversary of this accident, and I won a strongman competition individual event.
All right.
I deadlifted a car 17 times.
Wow.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So there's a couple programs that I rolled out recently through Restart, and one is called Survivor Night Out, and that's where it really is kind of a roving support group. Like, I really believe in support groups, but the downside is they're all structured very well, and there's usually a speaker or a point to the meeting that night where when I talk to survivors all the time, like, even though I'm a survivor, I speak for others. I don't usually speak for myself a lot, which is sometimes bad, but most of the time good, and one of the things that I learned is that most survivors want to go someplace where they can talk to someone who understands what they're dealing with. And brain injury is one of those things where you can be the best medical professional in the world, you can be the best caregiver in the world, whatever, but unless you're living it every single day of your life, you have no clue what we go through. It's one of the phrases is the hidden injury. It's one of the nicknames, and you can't see it on a lot of us. There's 530,000 Pennsylvanians living with brain injury, and out of those, I'm going to take a wild guess and think maybe half of those you can actually see the brain injury or something physically wrong with them. The other half you really can't. So I started Survivor Night Out, and it's a once a month, it's a Saturday afternoon, and it's usually a point like a game day or a movie day or an event that has going on. Like when the Fame had their housing and dedication for the building and trucks this year, that was one of our Survivor Night Out events. We went to that. So that's a big thing. But the newest program that I'm really proud of, I had this vision last spring about I had been to a doctor's office and I had went there saying I have some headache. I have headaches pretty strong. They're not migraines, but I had some headaches and some dizziness, and I was just off. I knew something was going on. So, went there and met with them and kind of got I got the old adage of take a few aspirin tomorrow, take some Tylenol, Motrin, whatever you're allowed, and call me in a couple of days. How you feeling? And I pretty much flat out said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm here because I have to be because of my insurance. I want to go to a neurologist. There's something more than just a headache. And so as it turned out, I went to my neurologist, who I love dearly. And it turned out I had some vestibular issues. So, vestibular, for those of you who may not know, would be the inner operatives of your head. So it could be your eyes, your optic muscles. It could be inner ears, brainstem. And a lot of times they'll say it's what's the other word? Vertigo. A lot of times they'll say it's vertigo because it's very similar to that. But anyway, that kind of gave me the vision of we need to do something about this, because too many survivors are complaining about getting misdiagnosed, not diagnosed, and when they are diagnosed, they're not being told where to go. So information needs to go out there somehow. So I wanted to create this. I've called it a localized awareness program, and really it's at the county level, the city level, that kind of thing, where maybe we contact health departments. I try through the legislatures to get laws passed to maybe mandate more brain injury knowledge, that kind of stuff, through our doctors, whatever. So anyway, I was fumbling and debating myself about how I was going to accomplish this, because it's so big and one person can't do it, and how do I get the people to do it? And as it turned out, I finally decided, ever since my accident, one of the things I do is I like to say is I stole the Nike slogan of "just do it." So I finally listened to my own advice and I just did it. I had no idea how I was going to, no idea when, where, that kind of stuff. I just started doing things. Turned out I got the idea to assemble a group of 8 other survivors that I've worked with before in advocacy, and I know that they would do things. They agree with the Restart fundamentals of survivors working for survivors, from a survivor's perspective. So my goal with them was to create a dynamic model that could be used as a template. So if someone calls me or emails me, whatever, and says, hey, how can I help? Then I can say, here's an SOP or a guideline that you can use. You don't have to follow it. There's too much there, but maybe one thing there helps you get started in your area. Demographics are important. The type of place you're trying to get to is important. So your means and methods are going to be a whole lot different than what it might be here in Chester County. So we met for about 6 months, and right before Christmas, we finished up a brain injury fact sheet that I would love to see posted in doctors' offices and that kind of stuff. And we had a model that could be sent out and given to others to help. Well, in the middle of February, with Brain Injury Awareness Month coming up March 1st, I rolled it out publicly. And some of the things that we're targeting would be doing first responder awareness. I had come up on an accident that's been 6-7 years ago, but I come up on an accident on a small road here around where I live, and there's a bend in the road, and there was somebody came around wide. There was 3 cars in an accident. I got there just as they're calling 911, so it was right away. But I did just like you would do. Went around, did the assessment, see what's there. That way, when my friends from Goshen Ambulance got there, who do a very good job, I could just give them a heads up on what's there, what I found. But at one of the cars, there was an older couple sitting there, and it's the usual accident scene with some moaning and the woe is me kind of stuff, and without making light of it, but that kind of sound and stuff, and a little bit chaotic. Well, the gentleman, I noticed his eyes were uneven, so I saw something was going on there, and I started talking to him, and he actually was very angry. And I didn't know if he was angry at me, angry at the accident. I was assuming angry at the accident until I really got close to his face where I could see his eyes, and I said, oh, he has something going on inside his head. And so I asked if he was okay, or what are you mad about? Where are you hurting, etc. And he said, man, I just got my license back. I just started driving a couple weeks ago, and this guy comes around a turn wide and he hits me head on. So he's upset about not driving. And I said, oh, why didn't you have your license, if you don't mind me asking? And he said what I thought he was going to say. He said, well, I had a stroke a couple of years ago, So I wasn't able to drive, but I just was allowed to drive now. And I said, wow, man, you look awesome. I said, I had an accident a couple of years ago. I don't look near as good as you. And all of a sudden things just got really calm. They're sitting on the road against the front bumper of the car. They had gotten themselves out of the car and they were sitting there. And he tapped his wife on the shoulder and said, yeah, we're good, man. This guy's got it. He's in good hands. We're in good hands, whatever. And so that also told me I need to teach about brain injury to first responders because you can interact with us incorrectly if and we might come back at you strongly. We're going to be angered, frustrated, that kind of stuff. And a lot of times we're also going to appear drunk or slurring our speech, that kind of thing. I had an incident myself where I was being stupid when I was driving and I reached for something in my passenger seat. And I was on 202, which is a divided highway here in the area. And I stood back up and I was straddled on the middle line. And of course the lights come on. And so I pulled over and a very courteous police officer came up and went through the whole conversation and everything. And I explained, I just reached over, grabbed something or whatever. And I said, I looked up and said, were you drinking? What are you doing out this way? That kind of stuff. So I answered all the questions. I told him, I said, by the way, I live with a brain injury. I said, it's late at night. I'm going to slur my speech. I'm going to do things that will appear that I'm drinking. I said, but I'm not. And so he went back to his car with the license like they always do. And he comes back out and just does the usual, the PSA of, hey, pay attention to where you're driving. And he starts walking away and he goes, by the way, Mr. McDonald, he goes, thank you for teaching me about brain injury awareness because I would have swore you were drinking.
Yeah.
So it's needed. It's definitely needed. So I developed I named this program called the LAND program. And we're targeting school districts, medical facilities, first responders, all kinds of different things. In the schools, I want to see it taught in some health curriculums. And the Westchester Area School District, Westchester University, and the Chester County Chester County, what they call it, the public training campus, they have all agreed to work with us and start inserting brain injury awareness into their programs. And I'm actually speaking at Chester County. We have it scheduled for the summer courses in May. I saw your recent event at the Delaware County Fire School with the high school kids, and I actually reached out to them because I want to get it put into them also.
Right, very cool. Now, the other thing that happened most recently for us is the Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth, and we, have a Department of Health that kind of oversees us. They put a new protocol in for head injury and brain injury awareness and a whole new class. I've been doing this for 28 years, old man that I am, and it was the first time that they actually they talked about trauma, but they never talked very specifically about brain injury, what to expect, how to treat it. That's now in our state protocols, so that's also pretty cool.
That's awesome. It's it's something that I'm not the only one that brought it up, but it's something that a couple of us brought up in the TBI advisory board meetings, I was told that it had been talked about. It's coming, kind of thing, and I guess it's coming is now here. So I think that's awesome. It's definitely something we want to keep working on. We're going to fight for trying to get some funding for awareness materials, etc. Because right now there's none of that in the state. But the other thing that and actually I'll stop rambling after this. But the one thing that I wanted to leave you with too that I just thought about is we've all been isolated a little bit because of COVID. Every person in the world got isolated. There's no doubt about it. And when I talk to people about brain injury awareness, I compare it to COVID because now everybody knows what it's like to be isolated. Every one of us brain injury survivors, we are isolated a little bit. We're stereotyped. Many of us did lose self-worth. Many of us did lose our self-confidence, that kind of stuff. And once we get stereotyped and we're isolated a little bit more, then that sometimes kicks us over the edge. And I know there's we talk a lot about suicide in the first responder world, and suicide in the brain injury world is also a big thing too. It happens too much. So that's something else we need to worry.
Just in EMS alone, we've seen over a 300% increase of emotional disorders, severe depression, and stuff like that since the COVID pandemic hit. It's something that we're struggling with, trying to figure out how a lot of the hospitals are getting inundated with psychiatric emergencies due to the isolation issues that have happened. We get into our own little bubble, and maybe we turn to drugs and alcohol, or maybe we start self-pitying ourselves, and those are significant things. And what I hear you saying is that's what living with a brain injury is.
Yes, it definitely is. And even when I speak, I mean, I spoke all over southeastern Pennsylvania, and like I said, down DC, and I tell them that right away, I don't care how big a medical professional you are and how much you know about brain injury, but you don't know enough because you don't live it. And there's there again, perspective. So medical professionals that work with brain injury survivors or brain injury in general, they have the same goals as I do as far as gaining awareness and advocacy and stuff like that. But we're looking at it from two different sides. We're looking at it from two different sides of the coin, but the middle of that coin is where we always meet, and we're always going for the same thing. And I actually struggled a little bit with that when I first started getting involved, because I kept saying, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't think about it the way we do because you're not living it. How can you know? But once I started getting I like to say, get my wits about me, and I started getting a little bit more organized in my thoughts and that kind of stuff, I was able to understand that they do have the same goals. They're just coming from a different place than we are.
Right.
The downside though is where we are is what's important. We need to get up and put our shoes on every day. Those of us that go back to work, we need to be a little bit, I don't want to say unprofessional, because it is a job and you've got a boss, but you eventually need to make sure they understand what your shortcomings may be, what your limitations may be, etc. There's times where I just had to get up and walk out of my office and sit outside for 10 minutes. And that's enough to put me back on track. And a lot of people say, well, I do that too. Well, imagine waking up in the morning and not knowing who you are. Well, that's a brain injury survivor. That's what's going on in their head. So you're organizing all them thoughts. It's hard to organize your thoughts and retrieve your words in a damaged brain, but you still got to stay on track with the rest of the world as far as your employers go. Gotcha.
All right, Kevin, we're at that hour mark. I appreciate everything that you've been telling us today. Thank you for sharing your story. It's not common for, patients, with the HIPAA kind of things to come on and talk about their stories and their struggles. So I really appreciate you coming on and giving us the opportunity to talk to you. I want to encourage you to stay strong, brother. We do have your back. Be part of the fire company like you are, either it's through CISM or advisory. Keep teaching us, keep, going out there, hitting the fire companies, hitting the EMS companies and teaching us about what it is, because we're only going to get better if people are willing to offer that. So thank you very much for coming on. And, we look forward to March 29th at 11 p.m. in Harrisburg, right?
Yes, definitely. Thank you for all your support.
Yeah, not a problem. So we'll catch up to you later, okay? We'll keep in touch.
Right. Thank you, sir.
All right, take care.
Bye.
All right, so this was Heroes Next Door talking about Traumatic Brain Injury Month coming up. That was Kevin McDonald, a patient of mine from way back and a friend of mine from the fire companies. This is Around the Fire Table with Heroes Next Door. Do us a favor, hit that subscribe, hit that notification, and keep building this channel. So thank you again to Kevin for everything that he's been doing, and look forward to next topics. Hit us up on the comments. Keep liking our videos, keep sharing our videos. We can build this channel with you guys. So thank you very much. Have a good night. I'll see you next week.